You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. I'm Jeanne Amlour, and I'm welcoming today Mike Domitrz, the founder of the Center for Respect, a Hall of Fame speaker, and a speaking coach. You may have seen him on NBC Dateline or maybe Forbes, Wall Street Journal. He's continuously being sought out for his proven track record of helping shift the paradigm for people while also helping entrepreneurs dramatically improve their speaking skills. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you having me here.
Absolutely. So what I'm really interested in is your Center for Respect, because we were talking about that before. And I want you to just tell us all about the Center for Respect and what you speak about respecting others.
Yeah, absolutely. So how it got started was, nobody grows up thinking, I'm going to run the Center for Respect as a teenager, as a young man, or a young person overall. And unfortunately, what happened was I had a life situation take place that sort of changed everything for me. I was 19. And I received a phone call that my sister had been raped, who was 23. And I didn't know how to move forward. This is 1989. Nobody talked about these topics. And so I would later learn that I could do something about this by speaking out. And so I started speaking out. And what we found at the core of all these issues tends to be respect. And so then we started working in schools, and then companies said, hey, can you do this for us? And that's where we really built this whole concept of how do you create a Center for Respect in every organization? How do you create a foundation in your family of respect? And so that everybody can come together and really see the value of every human being in each situation.
Okay, so how do you do that? What do you teach people about respect?
Yeah, well, the first thing we do is we take on barriers that society has around this topic. So I'll give you an example. If I said to you, respect is blank, most audiences yell earned, which is a horrific concept. Because if you believe it's earned, this is a power play situation. This is not how I treat human beings. So if you have to earn respect, that means you have to do something to be worthy as a person. That makes no sense at all. You can earn my trust. Yeah.
I agree. I've always had a problem with that. Yes.
Yeah. You can earn my trust. You can earn my admiration. But I'm giving you dignity and respect because you're a human being.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Exactly.
But even if you treat me with disrespect, I'm still treating you with respect. It doesn't mean I make your behavior okay or I accept it. I'm going to hold you responsible for it. And treat you with respect throughout the process. And whenever people say, no, they got to earn it, and I say, well, why do you believe that? Especially, for instance, in countries that believe in freedom and democracy, they believe that if for instance, you're charged with a crime, you should have the right to prove your innocence. Nobody should be able to just jump to that because every human being deserves dignity and respect. That's why that's there. If we didn't believe that, you could believe, well, they did something wrong. I can now execute them without a trial.
Okay, right. Now, you know Napoleonic law is such. Did you know in France, you are guilty until proven innocent? That's Napoleonic law.
Right. So the opposite. There, they don't believe human beings deserve any respect until you've earned it. You have to prove you're innocent, right?
Yes. You have to, if somebody accuses you, they assume you're guilty, and then you have to work to prove that you're not. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. So I agree with you because let's look at this. That would mean if I'm walking down the street, they don't know who I am, and they're going to disrespect me. How could I have earned the respect if they don't know me?
Exactly.
And how can a man open a door for me, which some people do, out of respect that I'm a person or a woman or whatever is in their mind? I didn't earn that. They just saw, oh, there's this lady. I'm going to open the door for her, and I say thank you, which, by the way, I think is a lovely thing to do. Sometimes I open the door for men. So the point is, you're right. If we had that, well, then no, I'm not going to respect you until you prove. How can we prove to somebody when we're just having a very small interaction on a subway or on a bus or walking down the street or anything? Okay, so you're teaching that we must respect others no matter what, and it's not a tit for tat, right?
Exactly. Because if you don't believe that, then things like slavery are acceptable. Because you can think other human beings don't deserve any respect, only if I think they do. And this is the ugliness of when people believe it's earned.
I could not agree more. It also seems whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all on trial until we prove our worthiness of respect. And I thank you. I've thought of that. And I've thought, well, philosophically, we're all just being tested all the time. We have to be proving ourselves nonstop that we're a good enough person for other people to respect us. So I'm with you. We should just, assume everybody should be respected. So what are some ways of actually helping people who are listening to start adopting this philosophy of respecting others and also expecting respect from others? Because I expect other people to respect me without
Yes,
having to prove anything.
that's right. That's a healthy boundary, right? And so
Right.
everybody should have that right to that. And so if
Mhm.
somebody's been raised to teach that it's earned, just stop and think, how did you feel when you were the one who had to earn it? It
Right.
never felt good. Like you said, you're on trial. It
Mhm.
never feels good. And it is clearly, literally a power move. You have to do
Yes.
something to earn mine. The problem is then I earn yours and I get in that position. I make people below me earn theirs. This is just a gamemanship. So you just
Mm.
want to ask people, is that how you want to treat people? Or do they matter because they're alive? They should matter because they're
Mm.
alive. If
I
people go,
agree.
what about, I'll give you a classic example. Somebody starts on the job. They're going to earn my
Mhm.
respect because they just got here. Well, they
Mhm.
were hired because they thought they were worthy day one, or they wouldn't have hired them. If the company
Right.
hires them, immediately
Mhm.
they're worthy day one. So you treat them with
Yeah.
dignity and respect the day they show up. Now, they might have to earn your trust because of
Mm.
certain things on the job. That might have to
Mhm.
happen, but you're going to give them that dignity and respect. So here's some things you can do. One is anytime that you see these concept of, what is a respectful behavior? Ask people what it means to be disrespected, what it feels like. And you're
Mm.
going to hear words like not seen, disregarded, humiliated,
Mhm.
invisible. That's a
Mhm.
scary word for a human being to feel invisible when amongst
Mm.
others. That's
Yeah.
that's like the lowest level, right? So
Mm.
you go, all right, what's the opposite of that? To be seen. Now here's the key. To be seen for exactly who I am, not my potential.
Mm.
So many people like to say, I see great potential in that person. In
Mm.
many ways, that's an insult because you're implying who I am right now isn't great. So
Mhm.
how about saying, I see greatness in them right now? Everybody has potential. So it's an insult to
Mhm.
say you've got, if I say, Sean, you have potential,
Mhm.
everybody does. So it makes more sense for me to say, wow, I see your greatness.
Yes.
Yep.
However, when we say to somebody, "You have such great potential," usually the person is flattered because it means that, "Oh, I'm more special than other people because
They
he sees
only are
great potential."
flattered when they're early in the process.
Mm.
If you
Mhm.
said to a CEO, I see
Yeah.
potential in you,
Yeah, that's an insult.
that is an insult.
It means like someday you're gonna make it, buddy, but right now,
That's
thanks.
right.
But it's like, what I used to hate? I always hated this growing up when they'd say, Jean made such a great effort. I was like, what? I
Right.
remember feeling like that's insulting that I made a great effort. Like, good effort. Too bad you didn't make it, but well, you made a good effort. It didn't feel good to me at all. Now, is that
No, it
me or
doesn't.
is that normal? We shouldn't feel good about that?
I ran for a board of directors once and I didn't make it. And the person who gave me the news said, someday you'll get there.
Oh,
In
brother.
no way did that feel like a compliment. You're like, what?
No.
I'm not a 5-year-old. Why are you talking to an adult like that? And
Yeah.
so, because it doesn't feel like you see my greatness. It feels like you have to baby me because you don't trust my, actually give me respect. If you respect
Mhm.
me, you don't have to say that to me. You say,
Yeah.
hey, you didn't make it. It was a tough call. You didn't make it. That's all you have to say if you respect me. Right.
Right.
So,
Right.
and so that's what you want. And here's the other key to that. That means you see me for my negatives and my positives and value it all.
Mm.
There's these memes you see out there all the time. See the best in everyone.
Mm.
No, some days you're going to see the worst in people and you
Mhm.
still need to treat that person. In fact, I would argue those are the days we need to be there more for those people, right?
Mm.
The days we're hurting is when we need to lift people. And so if we just say, see the greatness in people, we also tend to ignore when they need our support. We're like, oh,
Mm.
your day will get better. Well, that's not
Mm.
really understanding me as a person or as a human. How about
Mhm.
saying, hey, what's happening? How can I be there for you? How can I
Right.
support you? Right? Being present to the moment is how you
Mhm.
respect someone.
Right. Okay. So being present to the moment is how you respect somebody. Now, let's face it, human beings always see things from their own point of view. And some people, most people, all of us at some point as well, find it very hard to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, right?
Yeah.
So, do you do work with people where you say, okay, how would that feel if we switch that around?
We don't do that. Here's why we don't do that. I can't know your shoes.
Mm,
So when they tell people walk a mile in their shoes, as an
hmm.
example, it's still my brain and my experiences in the shoes.
Yes, exactly. You can't be in their shoes.
Yeah, that doesn't. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to ask that person, what did I intend the impact to be of that statement?
Mm. But you did say something earlier. How would you have felt if somebody said that to you?
Yeah, yeah. And so that depends on the circumstances if you're going to use that. I'm talking about if somebody, I thought the example you're giving, back up. So I'm not sure. Oh, I said that to you. I said that to you. I was trying to remember where the circumstance was.
Yeah, no, what I mean, like, is if you're saying something to somebody, it's easy
Yeah,
to
and
talk.
here's why I could say that to you. Because we're on the same page.
Right.
But that statement doesn't work if we're not on the same page.
Oh, okay.
Because someone will sit there and go, I could care less.
Mm.
And you go nowhere because they're like, I don't care what people think. Okay, well, most people do. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
So what I say instead is, what was your intention? What was your goal? Right? And if they go, well, they need to understand this. Well, that did not get accomplished. So what's another way that could have been said that help get that accomplished? That's more powerful.
It's very easy to disrespect. It is very easy.
Oh, we teach companies 9 ways. Nine ways people disrespect every day in the workplace.
Okay, I want to hear those. Tell me the 9 ways.
Now, we won't even get through all 9, but I'll give you a few.
You can just say them. All right.
You'd be amazed how many people interrupt each other during a day. It's one of the greatest signs of disrespect. You are assuming you know what I'm going to say, and you're just cutting me off as if what I was going to say after that doesn't matter, right? You bulldoze. You walk into a meeting and you're like, oh, I got an idea. And you just like vomit it on everybody versus letting everybody share their ideas and then going, oh, do I even want to share mine anymore? These ideas are way better. But I bulldoze the room, right?
Yeah.
That's very common in leadership. Now, a different version of that is the dictator, right? Who doesn't even give anybody ever a chance. The bulldozer at the end says, what do you think? But they're doing it only because they want you to approve. The dictator doesn't even ask what you think, right? You will do this. This is how it's going to work. I care less about anybody in this room. That can happen in personal life and professional life. Those are the 4 quick ones we just did right there. Here's a major one we see all the time, denying access. So where we see this one, I was speaking to a group of CEOs. Almost the entire room identified as men. And it came up, I don't go to dinner with women. A CEO said that. I don't go to dinner with women, business dinners. And I said,
business dinners. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I go, excuse me. And I go, do you go to dinners with men? Business dinners. He said, of course I do. I go, well, then what's going on here? And he goes, it's too risky. And I said, okay, hold on. One of 2 options here. One of 2. One, that women, one, that you're so dangerous around women that you cannot be left alone with them in a business dinner situation because you're likely to harm them. You know that about yourself, so you're stopping that from happening. He got, so, how dare you? That is not the situation. I didn't say it was. I said it was one of 2.
Right.
It's one of 2. The second one is you think women are so manipulative, so psychologically
vixens.
Yes, will lie, will do whatever they have to do. But men are not that competitive, are totally loving, peaceful, never manipulate to get what they want. That's what you're saying in this case. Well, and then he got mad. He goes, well, my wife, that's what she wants. Ooh.
Oh, that's
so
a third
your
reason.
wife runs your company. So you just told all the women in the business, in your business, you don't matter as much as the men because of my wife. Right? And so either way, it's discrimination. Whether your wife's driving your choice or you're driving your choice, you're leaving people out. You're denying access. So if you believe that's true, then you don't go to business dinners with anybody or you go to business dinners with everybody. But denying clear access to people over fears is a massive form of disrespect.
Also, his wife doesn't trust him.
Correct. That's what it implies.
That's another issue that's within that. But the fact that he said that publicly, that is shocking because then when you got to the bottom of it, it wasn't that the women are the problem. It's my wife doesn't want me around women.
Yeah.
So, and that's up to him, but he shouldn't be publicly saying that, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm okay with him. I'm actually okay with him publicly saying if it's the truth.
True, but that wasn't the real reason. Was his relationship with his wife.
Yeah, but notice what we had to do. We had to drop his barriers before we got there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If I don't bring up the barriers, he never gets there.
Exactly. And then he probably realized as he was saying that, oh, that's why I do that. But you're
Right.
correct in denying access, because there is nothing more frustrating and demoralizing than having a service provider that you've hired who won't answer questions.
Right.
Like, I had the worst experience with an accountant who would not answer my questions. I had to beg her. I'm a very professional business person. And I thought, how did I get here that this person has to be emailed 10 times, messaging? And it was a power play for her. And she did it to a lot of us left her. But it was a power play because she was A, very unprofessional, but B, it made her, I could see it was the power of, well, I'm not accessible. And they were really like numbers. I need the number. And it was just this. And then she turned around and said, oh, but you're really bad at emailing. because I had to email her 10 times. I'm like, yeah, I had to email 10 because you wouldn't give me a number. So how am I bad at that? So it was this whole thing. And a lot of the clients I figured out that had hired her around the same time, we were all losing our minds because we couldn't get a hold of her. This is extremely disrespectful. So we were denied access to the help.
Yeah, and notice what they did there too. They also gaslighted you for their problem.
We're completely
right?
gaslighted. Completely. Yeah,
totally.
You got that. And it just went on. And I'm like, and I was, just trying to get away. And I did eventually. I was very aware, but you're in the middle of tax season. You can't like swap around. And that was the power play. Well, she can't, I already paid, we all paid her, and we're like, just get our taxes in. But it's not just, that was a really drastic example of that. And I thought, wow, this is what it's like to get like not only no service, but service that's affecting your business because it's an accountant, It's different if it's a marketer. Okay, the marketing's not going out. But that was the most extreme case of denying access I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. They happen. Yeah. And one that's similar to that, but different, we call it age and identity bias. And that's where groups hang together and leave others out. So I'll give you an example. You're in the workplace. There's 4 people in the office. 3 of you are tight. You do everything together. You go to lunch every day. Over in the corner is Larry. Larry is much older. Larry never gets invited. Larry would probably go if invited, but Larry never gets invited. Larry feels like Larry doesn't count in this world. Even though Larry's older, it's a complete version of that. And even if you ask Larry 5 times and Larry says no, on the 6th day, you still ask Larry. Because there might be the day it works for Larry.
But Larry might decide yes.
Yeah, one of the mistakes people do is they think, well, I've invited them 10 times. I'm not inviting them anymore. It's the inviting that makes people feel included. It's actually not the event.
But on the other hand, sometimes the people are annoyed they keep getting invited. They're like, I wish they'd just stop asking me. So it depends on the personality.
But that case, that allow them to express that. To assume that is dangerous. Right? I'll give you an example. Just even my personal life, we do an annual New Year's Eve party. And there are lots of people that come, and there are people who never come, but every year say, I so appreciate you keep inviting me. Because the year I can go, I'm going to be there. Right? And so that's at least being inclusive. If they say to me, Mike, we're never going to be able to make it, you don't need to worry about inviting. That's different. Okay.
That is different.
We'll take you off the list.
Yes.
That makes it easy.
It's true. I always say that because I don't want people to think I'm ungracious and I don't appreciate it. So I say the same thing. I say, look, thank you for always thinking of me. It hasn't been the right dates, but please don't give up on me.
Right. Exactly.
It's not that it just hasn't worked. So I'm like, don't give up on me. I think that's a gracious way of saying, I do appreciate it. Just don't give up on me. I'm going to make it at some point. Right.
Yes. And so another one is called silence. So I come to you and I go, John, I have an idea. What do you think? And you just stare. You give me nothing. And today, this is very common because of phones. It crosses into another area we're going to talk about in a second. But sometimes it is disrespectful because they're literally ignoring you. Other times, they're a processor. So I'm the quick ADHD brain spilling out ideas. My wife is a processor. She needs time to process. But what we need to do is teach processors, can I have a minute? Can I have an hour? Can I come back to you tomorrow? Yes. It at least tells me I was heard versus, they just kept walking. There we go. So at least let the person know. And there's a similar one to that, which is called distracted. which is when you do talk to someone and they're looking at their phone, they're looking at their screen. They won't look you in the eye. My dad used to say this. We coached middle school basketball boys. And my dad would always say this. I always thought it was powerful. I know you're listening when your eyes are looking at me. And every other person I've been around in life had said, I know you're listening when when you're paying attention or when your ears. But he said, when your eyes are looking at me. And that was powerful because it's true. It's really true.
Not really, because I know people that will look straight through you. They're looking, but they're not listening. They're thinking of something else.
Yeah, but in this lesson, they're going to learn that's not okay because we're teaching look somebody in the eyes to listen, right? So it's not listen in the eyes to ignore, right?
There's so much behavior here that a lot of us, some of us do some of this some of the time. I'm just sort of thinking, do I do any of that? But I think also the interruption, sometimes when you know somebody really well and you finish each other's sentences, I don't see that as disrespect because it's sort of like sisters that we aren't taking it the wrong way. We're like, oh yeah, and you're kind of excited. I think there's a context for that because there's certain relationships, like literally, I know if I don't politely interrupt, that person will talk for 20 minutes straight.
Yes, but here's the difference, John, with that. That should be acknowledged. Like literally, due to time, we need to stop. We need to move on to this conversation.
Yes, exactly. Excuse me, but I really got to go in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be said, right? Versus just interrupting. There's a difference there. You brought up like with sisters or with partners.
Yeah.
If that's fully understood, because sometimes the one who's the interrupter, like maybe you and I, we think it's always okay. And the sister, the brother, the spouse is going, yeah, it is irritating sometimes. So we can assume that interrupting is okay because that's what we are and what we do. But when I teach this, it's been amazing how many people have come back to me and said, oh, my spouse, when I came home and discussed it, were like, oh yeah, it drives me nuts. And I never knew it bothered them. So by at least acknowledging it, it lets them know, hey, no, that is a problem or no, it's not a problem. But in the workplace, it's usually a problem. In boardrooms, it's usually a problem because often it's certain people being interrupted, which means they're being treated less than other people in the room, particularly around gender. If there's a room where it's male dominant and there's a woman at the table, she's more likely to be interrupted. Well, that's a problem. That's a problem. All right. And by the way, when I say that, that's based on what other CEOs have told me. Like, in other words, we see this in our boardrooms.
Oh, this is real. Oh, no, this is not an imagined thing that somebody just imagined today. I've seen that behavior. I witnessed it. Yeah. So it's not because I've witnessed it. It's a thing. It's not like Jean Amour's weird. You happen to see a random act of nature, something happen. So yeah, it's so fascinating. So did you get all through all the 9?
Yeah, one left. And it's the biggie, actually. It's the fixer. And it's what many of us do. So we see a situation and we know we could help. We don't jump in and take it over. That's different. That's more the bulldozer or the dictator. We just insert our helpful ideas. Like, oh, did you think of this? Oh, did you think of that? When it was unsolicited. That is trying to fix somebody who's not asking for your help. Yes. Most people do not appreciate it. Even if it was, yes, correct. They hate it. And what's amazing is most leaders do it. So when you teach this in front of a room, people are like, oh, I do this all the time. I do it to my kids. I do it to my wife. I do it to my, and so once they call it out, they go home and say to their partner, hey, I realize you probably feel like I'm always trying to fix. You don't have anything to be fixed. If anything, I need to work on me, not anybody else. So I'm going to stop that. If you catch me doing it, please call me out because you deserve better than that. And it really, really can shift relationships, especially in the workplace.
It's interesting because I find that I don't, to give people a bit of a break. If they're not aware, they're not aware. And I believe that a lot of men are fixers and a lot of women are, but I've heard this before. People go, my husband's a fixer. And I'm thinking, I'd like a fixer. I like them to come in and fix everything that's broken. I like, the fridge is broken, fix it, please. So some of us appreciate that personality, to be honest. Like, to me,
but here's the difference. You brought up where you welcome it, Jean.
Right.
There are areas you would not welcome it.
Probably not.
Right. So you brought up fixing the refrigerator. But I bet if you had a major business idea in your head and they were trying to unsolicited fix your idea, you might not feel the same way about fixing I'm good at fixing the refrigerator. I did not ask for your viewpoint on this.
Do you know what? If the help was intelligent, I welcome it. But if the,
Sure.
what it is, I think what it is that annoying thing of, I think there's, so why don't you just, when somebody says, why don't you just dot, 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 that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because the just is usually not a just. It's just, oh, why don't you just go do this enormous, horribly hard thing to do? And I'm thinking, yeah, sure. And there was a point where people would be giving me unsolicited help all the time. And I was like, if I hear another, why don't you just, it is disrespectful. Because
Yeah.
if it was basic, of course I've already tried it. Like, why don't you just do this? Well, do you think I haven't tried that already? That's basic.
That's
So
right.
it's kind of an insult to your intelligence, or it's just annoying. I found it like, oh my gosh, this can be really, you're right. It can be really annoying to get unsolicited, dumb suggestions.
Yeah.
Now, unsolicited, helpful suggestions, I'm actually very open to.
Sure. But it's how they present it, like we just said.
Hmm.
Right?
Yes.
It comes back to that. And so if it's
Mm.
presented as I'm fixing you versus we're
Yeah.
fixing the solution, right?
Mm.
The problem, they're very
Mhm.
different. Usually
Very
fixers
different.
make you feel like you're being fixed and not
That's
the
not
problem.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Correct.
you're talking about people that are going to go and fix the other person, not fix the solution or come up with a
Correct.
solution to something outside of the other person. But this is
And it might
classic.
be, you might be fixing the problem
Mm.
while
Right.
also acting like you're fixing the person. So
Right.
it's not a good combination. And I
It's
interrupted
just,
there, so I apologize.
go ahead. I interrupted several times. So I'm just trying to get like, the questions in there so that I don't forget what we want to hear. So
Yeah.
I should write them down maybe. The thing is, there's such a potpourri of disrespect going on.
Well, that's why we give these 9. There's one other one we didn't get to, I just realized, and that was disregard or
Ah.
degrade, right?
Mm.
So that can be as subtle as rolling the eyes,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or blatant degradation, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that's a wide ranging, and that's why each of these are wide ranging, because you brought it up
Mhm.
before. All of us do some of these.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's okay. It's part of the human experience. The difference is, do we know our choice? Do we catch ourselves doing it and then switch it to a choice for respect? So when I'm working inside a company, we show them these 9, but with each one we go, all right, when you're in that, what if you switched it to this choice for respect, right?
Mm.
So instead of bulldozing, what if you led with curiosity? What if you did walk in the room and before you shared your idea and said, what's everybody's ideas, and sit back?
Mm-hmm.
And let everybody go before you share yours, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's leading with curiosity. That's also letting them lead instead of you leading. So that helps
Right.
avoid that whole situation. So for every negative, there's at least one positive we can choose instead.
Absolutely. Now, the thing is to give people a break. I find that most men who are fixers truly have a good intention. I think that they don't understand that they're probably listening and thinking, what? I'm just trying to help. And I think that helpful people have a good heart. They truly, unless they're very manipulative, and I don't believe people are, a lot of people, some are, but I don't think generally people are intentionally manipulative unless they're, a sociopath or something, right?
None of the 9 I just shared, none of them are based on you being a bad person.
Right.
Good people do this. Good people with good intentions do
Yes.
all 9 at different times in their life. And so
Right.
this is not about shame or guilt of, oh no, I've done it. Like I said
Mhm.
before, it's about identifying when we do it so we can do better moving forward.
Awareness. Yes.
Yeah, because here's why. Everything I just named can be
Mhm.
subtle. But if disrespect is happening at subtle levels in an organization, it will suddenly be allowed at much more massive levels. So
It
when
will.
people say, how did we get to a place of discrimination in this workplace? How
Mhm.
did we get to a place of harm being done in this workplace? Because you didn't call the small stuff. So then
Right.
what happens is it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes acceptable.
I just look at the Uber company. Remember that huge scandal a few years
That's
ago?
right.
It was blatant abuse. It wasn't, some of this that you're talking about is so obvious. It's more than disrespect, it's actual abuse.
That's correct. But it gets to there because we didn't call the small stuff.
Exactly. Where it was a
Yeah.
lack of disrespect. Because
Yeah.
as some of these, I'm thinking, well, that's more than disrespect. That's a more serious offense. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. That's literally assault. That's harm. Yeah. Violence.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So everybody listening, don't feel bad if you've done these things before. It's just about being aware where maybe you didn't understand that it was disrespectful. I think everybody wants to be respectful. I think that we want to, and I think
Yes.
stress gets in the way. And I think most people, when they are disrespectful, they'll think of it later and think, oh, that was disrespectful. I think the key is to go back and say, hey, I'm really sorry. That was
Yeah.
disrespectful.
Well, this is when we do this work in organizations, the people are like, thank you. Because I didn't mean to do some of these things, but I do it all the time. So they want the tools. Most of us want to do the right thing. The difference is we were never taught these things in school. Companies don't teach this. They teach you not to discriminate, not to harass. They don't teach you how to treat someone. Right? And so that's what we're talking about here. How do we treat each other? And how do we deserve to be treated along the path?
Right. I mean, things have gotten a lot better for women in the workplace. Let's face that. Like, it's head and shoulders. However, I feel like there is this confusion of, like, opening the door for a woman. A lot of men are afraid they're insulting the woman now, which is kind of sad. And I guess it depends on the woman of holding the door or not. It's been this huge topic of discussion, right?
Well, I'll go there because this is in my work.
Go there,
we discuss this straightforward. If you are only holding it for women, we got a problem. Because if it was a sign of respect, you'd do it for any person that was walking behind you. If this is only for women, then what's this about? Or what about women? Do they need the door held and others don't? Right? If I get to the door first, I should hold it for John just like I would Julie. That should not matter. And so it's the old gamesmanship of it that is a problem. So if somebody thinks, well, I'm going to hold the door for a woman because they still believe in the old mindset of men are the ones in power and stronger, a woman's weaker, so I hold the door for. That's a problem, right? That's putting women in a role and men in a role, and neither way is it healthy. So we just understand that, hey, if I open the door for you, I open the door for everyone, which is what hopefully I do, because we're not saying there's anything wrong with opening the door.
We should just call it the open door policy.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Well, Mike, this has been highly interesting. So what's one thing you want to leave the viewers with as far as a thought, a mindset, how to start being this way?
Yeah. So I want to go all the way back to the beginning. And that's when we wake up each day knowing that every human being deserves dignity and respect, starting with me. And so I'm going to treat everybody with it, including myself, because sometimes we're toughest on ourselves. And treating others with dignity and respect also means treating each other with compassion and love and grace. And so giving that to ourselves each and every day so we can give it to others.
Okay, well, that's a mic drop. That's a mic drop.
No
Thank
pun
you so
intended,
much.
Right?
No pun. Actually, that just came out. So there was no pun intended. Thanks for turning up, Mike. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. And I hope that you subscribe. I hope you love us. We all want to be loved. And I hope that you share this wonderful podcast. And I'll see you on the next one.
You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.